the offensive line. You brought in a bunch of transfers. You have 3 guys back who were started at least 6 games a year ago between Luke Work, Jacoby Jackson, and Albert Reese. You added 5 transfers in the post-spring window. 2 of those guys, Blake Steen, really 3 of those guys are firmly in the mix to compete for starting jobs with Blake Steen, Brennan Smith, and Zach Owens. You have another transfer in Kobe Keenum at center, who's very much in the mix to be a starting for you this year. Timothy Lewis, I talked about him earlier. As a redshirt freshman, there's a ton of hype. Can he be a breakout player? Cannon Boone, sort of a veteran guy on the roster. Can he factor in and be one of the guys who starts for you up front? You've got a lot more options this year. And there are several other guys after that. Depth for offensive line was a massive concern a season ago. I think they addressed that in the portal. They've brought in a lot of bodies. They have more size in the room. You can tell a difference between what they were trotting out there a year ago and the guys they have this year. They are bigger in the trenches. They are bigger and stronger up front. Do you have 5 guys who can play? That's the thing. Do we have 5 guys we can form a solid starting lineup? I do not need a group. I do not need the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. I don't need an offensive line of all SEC players. I don't need an offensive line of all Americans. Do I have 5 guys who can reasonably play? That's kind of the question, because they didn't have it a year ago. Last season, they did not have that. That is the root cause of everything they had issues with offensively a season ago, was that the offensive line was not strong enough for them. Do you have the guys in there to be better? Obviously, it's not just a personnel thing. It's a coaching thing as well. You go and you bring in Phil Lodeholt as offensive line coach. You move away from Cody Kennedy, who his 1 year didn't go the way that you wanted it to. Phil Lodeholt is familiar with Jeff Lebby, having coached with him at UCF and at Oklahoma. He has shown his chops on the recruiting trail, done really well with the portal and at the high school ranks. And he is someone that in his 1 year at Colorado, their offensive line got noticeably better, at least from a pass protection standpoint, which is such a big thing for State. As bad as they were in pass protection a year ago, they need to be better in that standpoint. And yes, I know people will say, well, Shadur still got sacked a ton last year. I know I said this a couple of weeks ago. A lot of those sacks on Shadur were on Shadur, because he had a tendency to hold on to the football for a very long time. And I'm not saying that to dunk on him. I hope he goes on to have a great NFL career. It doesn't really matter to me one way or another. I'm just saying, that's a lot of the sacks Colorado gave up last year fell back on the quarterback. And it was not nearly as bad as it had been 2 seasons ago before Lodeholt got there. In theory, you have upgraded an offensive line coach. In theory, you've 100% updated your depth. In theory, you've upgraded your talent. You've 100% upgraded from a continuity standpoint, because, like I said, you've got 3 guys back who started for you a year ago, plus another in Cannon Boone who played a good bit of snaps for State. You've got some continuity. You got depth. You got better talent, better coaching. This should be a better room. The questions really become, who are the 5? It's at center. It's like a 3-way battle between Kobe Keenum, Brennan Smith, the UTEP transfer, and Cannon Boone. Any of those guys could end up winning that job. At tackle, you have a lot of options. Do you keep Albert Reese at tackle where he started a year ago? Does Blake Steen finish your starting right tackle after transferring in after the spring? Does Luke Work hold on to a starting tackle spot? Does Timothy Lewis finally take over one of those spots? You got a lot of options there. At guard, does Jacoby Jackson hold on to a starting spot? What about Zach Owens stepping in? Between Keenum and Cannon Boone, one of those guys could play guard. Luke Work could play guard. Albert Reese could also play guard. There's a lot of ways they could have this thing shape out. They've given themselves options. It really boils down to whether or not you have a guy that can be, whether or not you have 5 guys that can be a consistent starter. Are we buying into the flapjack hype? So that's Zach Owens. His name's coming up a lot. I'll say that. And if you were telling me that a guy who's 340 pounds is going to be anchoring one of the starting guard spots, all right. You didn't have that a year ago. If you want more protection on the interior, that'd be big. Obviously, we know the guy has talent. Simon Clem's out of high school, highly rated recruit. Now it's kind of his 3rd year of college. Now's the point he has to show it. But I think Flapjack Owens could definitely play a role. Again, State's got options. It's a matter of, do you have 5 guys that they can trust?
And, they have brought in and you can correct me on this, but in my notes, I had that they had brought in 5 guys from the portal. Uh,
That was
I know they
post
brought in
spring.
that was
That's just
post
after the
spring.
spring.
Okay, okay. Well, they still have those guys, most pretty much. I mean, they have. You mentioned Zach Owens comes from Colorado. Blake Steen is a guy from Virginia.
Yeah.
Daquan Bolden from Purdue. Javen James Akron. Brennan Smith is from Austin P. So, um,
Well, Brennan Smith was at UTEP last year. He started his career at Austin P. He was at UTEP. Jaden James was at Akron last season, and then he was at Maryland in the winter, but then got
okay,
back in the portal and came to state. But I mean, he was playing at Akron a year ago.
yeah,
But the other guys that transferred, Kobe Keenum comes from Kentucky. Trevor Mayberry comes from uh, Stanford. I think those are the only other two. So I think it's 7 total. They had 2 other transfers, Carson Lee and I'm blanking on one kid's name, Jesse Rammel. Those were winter
yeah,
portal transfers. They are both back in the portal at other programs now, which those were kind of the type of transfers out of, hey, we saw you come in. We think you probably need to go someplace else and play if you're going to play. That's what
yeah.
those moves were.
Okay. Yeah. And then one thing I wanted to point out, Jacoby Jackson comes back, Albert Reese, and Luke Work. There are 3. Uh, those are 3 key players I've read up on that saw great playing time last season. You need 5 guys to build a line, so I guess my question is, you only have so many transfers you can go with to put as starters. So, like, is there really a right or wrong answer there?
I mean, there could be a wrong answer. I will say, interested to see what Christian's unbiased record prediction from MSU is. Like, we do have an unbiased perspective. I will say,
Yeah,
I have not bucked where I'm at, and my record prediction is not like anything crazy for state this year. So I like to think I can be a little bit unbiased on this, even though I'm going to rant about Devon Booth and being picked behind a guy who transferred out of Mississippi State, and
right.
Xavier Thomas. But it could go wrong with the 5 guys. I mean, we kind of saw it I was going to say we saw it last year. Luke Work ended up performing better than McKylan Pounders at tackle did. But at the same
Mhm.
time, Luke Work is a true freshman starting out his college career. I don't know how realistic it is that he was going to step in and start for state right away. It was kind of it could have easily been a deal where just as the season progressed, you saw him start to get better and better. And Pounders, I think, was sick the first game that he missed. Work stepped in. It's like, all right, well, now Luke Work is going to kind of be the guy. Um, they have to find the 5 guys for sure. But I keep saying they've given themselves options. I am optimistic that it's got to be better purely off the fact that I just don't see how it could be worse. It's kind of
Right.
where I'm at with it. But if they are considerably better, then you're talking about an offense that's going to be really, really exciting this coming year.
For sure. And I think they have to be comfortable in the fact that they have that offensive line depth and that there's not a set 5 guys. Like, they have to be happy about that because, like, okay, we don't have like 5 guys and then the rest of y'all. It's everyone's competing. Everyone's going to get an opportunity. Do you rotate guys throughout the season and just kind of see how it all plays out? And you're just, as a unit, you're either going to have success or non-successful plays. I think that's what State's got to be happy about this year.
Having the ability to rotate bodies is big. It helps how you're going to be able to practice. It obviously helps keeping guys fresh in games. That's going to be huge.
Mhm.
They still definitely need 5 guys to emerge, and I think they're hoping that gets settled in within these coming days or coming practices that you start to emerge. Okay, these are the 5 guys that we feel most comfortable about. But to your point, having the ability to rotate bodies, having several guys who can play multiple spots is going to be big because it's interesting. For as much as MSU struggled up front last year, it was not because of injury. Um, I went into last season thinking, I'd sold myself to that offensive line because on paper, none of those transfers looked bad. I was like, okay, these 5 guys should come together and be a solid offensive line. My concern was after the top 5, I don't think they have anything. And if anybody gets hurt, they're probably in trouble. And it turned out that they stayed healthy throughout the year. You know, McKylan Pounders missed a game because he got sick, but they stayed healthy throughout the season. Like really none. I think Cannon Boone as a backup got hurt, but the starting group stayed healthy. The problem is the starting group just ended up not being that good. So you go to this year, but realistically, offensive line is one of the spots you're going to have injuries. So you go into this year, you should be able to withstand if you do have injuries. In theory, we've got more guys who can step in and play. They still got to find the guys though that they can definitely lean on. But so that's going to be the big thing to watch. But I think they've improved. I think every position group on offense. I think quarterback room is stronger. I think running back room is stronger. I think wide receiver room is deeper. I don't want to say it's better yet because we still have to kind of see from those guys, but they're at least deeper. Offensive line looks like they have upgraded. So I think they're better across the board.